I want to backtrack a little bit because I did some study on this verse in verse 6 of Psalm 42. And briefly today, I want to visit with you. So we're at Psalm 42 still. We're taking our time through this psalm, and it's been really great about our soul and God being the keeper of our soul, and how this psalmist, possibly David, how this psalmist was responding to a cast down, a thirsty, a poured out soul. And what does he do? He's thirsting for God. He recognizes that God is the one that can salve or fill his soul. And so by verse 6, he's talking to his soul. He says, "Oh my God, my soul is cast down within me." Oh, I'm sorry. Back to verse 5, he's talking to his soul. "Why art thou cast down?" Verse 6, he turns to God and cries out on behalf of his soul, "My soul is cast down within me." And maybe today, maybe this is you. Maybe your soul is just like, maybe you've been kicked in the gut spiritually. So what does he do? And we talked about this, but he says, "I will remember thee." And I did some looking up of this idea of "I'll remember thee from the land of Jordan, of the Hermonites, from the hill of Mizar." Okay, so the land of Jordan is all of the land that runs north to south along the Jordan River, from Mount Hermon, which would be in modern day Syria, or northern Israel. I'm trying to remember if it's over the border or not. And then it would go all the way down the Jordan Valley, down into the barren area south of the Dead Sea. At the Dead Sea. All of that, and it's very high ridges, by the way, and some of it's wilderness. But the further north you get, the more lush and green and fruitful it becomes. And so there's a picture here, and it's worth spending some time thinking about today. And it leads some to believe that this is David, because when David was running from Saul, when David was running from Absalom, he covered a lot of this territory. Now, the land of Jordan is all of that land, and some of it is brutal and barren, and some of it is lush and green and fertile and fruitful. And then, so he says, from the land of Jordan and of the Hermonites. So that would be north, where the mountains are, Mount Hermon, okay? And the hills just continually climb up into that real high, distant Mount Hermon, which is beautiful and usually snow-capped, okay? From the hill Mizar. So this is a small hill. It's not so much a particular hill as it's referring to some small hill, maybe a foothill coming up to Mount Hermon. Okay, now, here's why this is important, okay? If this were David, or whoever this is, he is recalling God and his presence and his particular works, not just from locations, but from context, from a point in time when this psalmist was in these places, when God was doing something in these places. And these places, so the land of Jordan could be representative of a desolate, lonely, running, hiding time where God was protecting in a time of trial. The Hermonites, that land is fertile and fruitful and probably represents a more gentle or more blessed time in life. The hill Mizar probably represents a restful time in life because it's a foothill or a small hill on a long climb or on a long ascent. So the picture, the context here is a diversity. Okay, it's a range of blessing to hardship. And so you think about your journey with the Lord Jesus. You have hard times, you have joyful times, you have long journey times that are not high peaks, not low valleys, you're just trudging forward. You have restful times where maybe you were on a climb and you stopped at a small resting place. You have times where you were at a peak or a place where you had a good vantage point where you could see a beautiful view. The hill Mizar may represent something like that, a resting point where you could look out over a valley and sit and contemplate. Have you ever been at a high point and looked out at a sunset or a sunrise looked out over a beautiful panorama. And what does it do? It just takes your heart to the beauty of God, to the handiwork of God, to the work of God. So the point here is powerful, okay? And the psalmist is saying, when my soul is cast down, I'm going to remember all the points in time where, God, you were present, where you worked. I'm going to remember the hard times and how you got me through them. I'm going to remember the restful times and how you encouraged and strengthened me in those restful times. I'm going to remember the long journeys through the valleys, Valley of Jordan River, where I was journeying north or south. I'm going to remember the times I was in hiding, hoping to survive. I'm going to remember all the things you've done in my life. And that is the salve, that's the ointment, that's the remedy for a cast down soul. So friend, a couple of thoughts. Number one, the younger you are, the more road is in front of you to build a repertoire of memories. And if this is your youth, then you're building a repertoire of moments and seasons where God is at work in your life, okay? But the older you are, the more extensive your library of memories are, and the less tumultuous the pending trials of life become. Why? Because you can remember God in the land of Jordan, in the land of the Hermonites, from the hill music. You can remember all these things that God did in your life. I'm often talking to one of my kids about a trial they're facing, a disappointment they're dealing with, an emotion they're experiencing. And I'm only 51, but at this point, it's like, yep, that's a part of it. Yep, that's difficult. Boy, you'll get through this. Trying to keep the big view. And so when your soul is cast down, the remedy is to remember all the points in life where God was faithful to you. The younger you are, the more you need to understand you're building that repertoire. You're building that library of memories. And so walk through these moments with God and find out who he is and how he holds you together. And the older you are and the longer you've journeyed, keep that ointment of remembering flowing into the depths of your soul, especially when your soul is cast down. So here's my assignment for you today as I wrap up today, okay? My assignment for you today is spend some time from this vantage point of wherever you are on your journey, thinking back to how God got you to where you are. Think of all the providential circumstances. Think of how he sustained you, how he strengthened you, how he cared for you. Think of times he's provided for you, answered prayer. And then look at the step of faith he's calling you to and just rest. Rest in the idea that God is faithful and he will be faithful. And that's really what the psalmist is saying is a salve or a cure for his cast down soul. So friends, I hope you will take some time to remember God at all the journey points of your life and see him be faithful to you.